You know, as a pastor, I get an opportunity to talk with a lot of hurting people. And when the issue of forgiveness comes up, well, it can be a real struggle, right? I mean, people say, I'm not ready, I don't feel ready, I've still got all of these feelings to deal with concerning the other person that hurt me. But you know, that's a big myth, the idea that forgiveness is a feeling. I mean, let's face it, if you're waiting for a feeling in order to forgive someone, that feeling may never come. I know people that have waited years, even decades, and their feelings never came around. And so we can't go with the false idea, the myth that forgiveness is a feeling. Other people say, well, you know, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget what they did to me. Well, again, another myth is that forgiveness is forgetting. You may never forget what they did. Remember, you've got a human brain with memory banks, and those memories may never go away. So forgiveness is not a feeling, and forgiveness is not forgetting. So once we dispel with those two myths, then we have to ask the question, are you willing to choose forgiveness? Would you be willing to consider who you need to forgive, and then go ahead and go about that choice of forgiving them and releasing them? You know what forgiveness looks like? It looks exactly like what God did for us. He chose, He initiated. He didn't have a certain feeling involved, but He acted. He chose through the cross to forgive us forever, to let us off the hook, to not keep score with us. And in the same way, when we choose forgiveness, what we're doing is first, we are assessing the damage. It hurt me when you did this to me. This is how it made me feel. These were the consequences of your actions. So first we look at what they did, and then we look at how it made us feel. And it's okay to process that. I know that a lot of Christianese out there and a lot of false ideas out there might cause us to want to push down our feelings, to stuff them down, or say, oh, that's not very Christian to feel or to think. But when we're going about this process of forgiving, it's the perfect time to process the pain and talk about the hurt that was done to us. And so after you've identified the action and then the feeling, well, then you can move on to say, but I choose. But I choose as an act of my will to forgive you and release you from anything that you owe me, even if you do it again. Now, you don't want them to do it again, of course not, but you're releasing them from any debt that they owe you. And if they do it again, it's out of your control anyway. Now, do you see that once you've done that, once you've assessed the damage and you've chosen to forgive, well, then you might wake up the next day and the next day, and those feelings might still come up. But at that point, you can say, no. I drove a stake in the ground. I remember the moment that I chose to forgive and release them. And so I'm going to walk in that attitude, the same attitude that I chose in that moment. So remember that forgiveness, it's not a feeling. And forgiveness, it's not about forgetting. Forgiveness is a choice to release the other person from anything that they owe you. And you know, forgiveness is not just for their benefit. I mean, that person that you forgive, they may never even know that you forgave them. You know, forgiveness can be about you. It's about benefiting you so that you don't walk around this planet with all that bitterness and resentment inside. Sure, in some cases, the Lord may lead you to approach them and share with them what you've done. But many times, whether we're forgiving someone who's already gone out of our lives or even in our lives, but we needed to set up a healthy boundary, sometimes forgiveness is just for our own benefit so that we can walk in an attitude of grace that Christ wants us to have. So think about that next time you need to forgive. Don't wait for a feeling. Don't wait for a forgetting. Those things may never happen. Remember, forgiveness is a choice. Forgiveness is your destiny because you are a forgiving person in Jesus Christ.